And I got to tell you, I am very excited to start this hour out. I've been talking about it all show because my next guest is one of the reasons that I am sitting in this seat right now. I read her book, Slander, in college, and it kind of changed my life, or definitely put me on a different career path. I was never a good writer, so I found a way to get into business anyway through talking. And that, of course, is New York Times bestselling author Ann Coulter, author of the new book, Never Trust a Liberal Over Three, especially a Republican. And Ann, thanks for coming on this morning.
Tyler, you just made my day. Thank you.
Well, Ann, the first question I want to ask you is, I read a column the other day by Jonah Goldberg, and he had written about how this whole Obamacare debacle has been the most enjoyable political moment of his life, because it's just to watch Barack Obama and all this hubris kind of collapse, and just to watch this liberalism fail. Is this one of the most enjoyable political moments of your life?
Not exactly. I always get nervous when conservatives start talking like this. I heard the same thing about Al Franken's run for the Senate of Minnesota. Oh, this is going to be a laugh. We're going to walk right over him. And I mean, you also hear people saying, attacking the shutdown a few weeks ago, saying, why are Republicans getting in the way? Obamacare is collapsing on its own. Just to remind all of you, nothing collapses on its own. This is a law. It was upheld by the Supreme Court. Unless we elect Republicans to repeal Obamacare, the fact that it is an utter disaster wrecking Americans' lives will not bring it down. You need to elect Republicans. Again, not one Republican voted for Obamacare, not one Democrat voted against it. So I'm really fed up with the alleged conservatives saying, oh, there's no difference between the parties. No, there's a big difference. There's a big difference in your lives right now. I mean, look at public education. Has that been a smashing success? Half the high school graduates in New York can't read. It's something like 70%. It may be higher than that in Detroit. Does that mean it collapsed? Does it collapse on its own? No. Once these liberal programs are put into effect, unless you elect Republicans to repeal them, they will continue, and your health care will be destroyed forever.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up, electing Republicans, and I want to get to that 2014 and 2016.
Because you've been reading my tweets?
Yes, I have. And you've talked about the North Carolina Senate race, and I do want to talk to you about Dr. Greg Brandon and Speaker Tom Tillis here in a second. But the real question, one of the major points of your books that you always point out is how one of the tactics of the Democrats is to make an argument, then wait 10 years and make the same argument again. Yes. And what has happened with Obamacare is they've run out of arguments so quick, they're recycling arguments from a month ago. A month ago, Howard Dean and Kathleen Sebelius were telling us it was the GOP's fault for Obamacare debacle. Now a month has gone by, and now Barack Obama is blaming the Republicans for the failure of the Affordable Care Act. And so is that the quickest turnaround you've ever seen of Democrats using old arguments?
Yeah, I can't say it's the quickest ever. It happens all the time. But that's why I revisited a lot of the arguments. Gosh, I thought we had won. In my current book, this is why we need Sean Hannity. He repeats himself. And I know sometimes his regular viewers will complain to me, oh, he repeats himself. No, you have to with liberals because they repeat themselves.
I did see you on Hannity last night, by the way, and I think Hannity's head was about to explode when you were defending Alec Baldwin. He wasn't able to grasp that you were backing one of the most liberal people in Hollywood. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not backing him on his liberalism, but it's weird that Alec Baldwin, he's being treated more like a conservative than any liberal I've ever seen. I mean, for one thing, I hate the word police all the time. Usually it's over a joke, a conservative is told. In this case, this is his private life. He's had a stalker all this time. I'm sorry, aren't conservatives anti-criminals? And I hate the paparazzi, coming and surrounding people when he's trying to get in his car with his innocent wife and newborn child, and they're all jamming cameras in his face. I mean, they're constantly harassing him. And even that phone call, which is, the ugliest episode that people bring up.
Yeah.
I'm skipping a few other things. would you want to be judged on the worst thing you ever did in your life? Everyone has personal foibles, and in that particular case, I mean, it was Alec Baldwin. His ex-wife Kim Basinger had been jerking him around through child visitation over their only child, Ireland. He wasn't, he'd show up to see her, wouldn't find out about her medical appointments, show up for his visitation time, and Ireland would be taken out of town. And I knew people who were working with Alec Baldwin that particular week. He was doing both 30 Rock and he was hosting Saturday Night Live. They'd all been working late nights. And, afterwards they say, okay, Alec, want to go out for a drink? And he said, no, I have to go home. I have to call my daughter. And I have an appointment with my daughter. He goes home and she doesn't answer the phone. So it was Alec Baldwin exploding in rage at what conservatives, I mean, he shouldn't talk to his daughter that way. Again, do you want to be judged on the worst thing you've ever done? But these family court or family laws have been written by the feminists to completely, relentlessly favor women. This is just the feminist view of everything, whether it's sexual harassment or girls in the military. They're on the girl team, and so there are deadbeat dads, but those laws get enforced. Laws on court orders on the father's visitation don't get enforced, and usually that's a conservative position, to treat people equally under the law and not to be using the law to bully people.
Well, I think it's the press is getting him confused with his characters that he plays on television, because he plays such right-wing conservatives. They're going after him with the fervor they usually only reserve for conservatives, only because
it's really true.
They're confusing him with Jack Donaghy.
That's very funny. It's really true. And one thing I mentioned at the end, which I know from many people who were there, when Sarah Palin did Saturday Night Live in 2008, that drama queen Tina Fey, threw a tantrum, refused to appear on the stage with her. Alec Baldwin was hosting that night. I think he's the most frequent host. He is very funny. And he was an absolute prince to Sarah Palin.
Yeah. No, I mean, besides the few incidents out there, it's hard to not like him, only because he is a good actor and he is funny. And I think usually the press does catch him on very bad days. But it's just, it is interesting how they've gone after him. You think they'd go after Martin Bashir worse, based on what he said?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is mind-boggling. I keep claiming it was Bashir was actually, giving instructions to his call girl by text, but wires got confused and somehow it ended up on his teleprompter. What kind of mind comes up with something like that? And for your listeners who don't know, but Martin Bashir, in a completely hysterical reaction to a unexceptional speech by Sarah Palin, said that her mouth should be defecated into.
Yeah.
What kind of mind comes up with that? Well, no, he still has his job, but Alec Baldwin is on indefinite hiatus for calling some obnoxious photographer. When he's yelling at him, he's cursing at him, calls him a bad word, calls him a fag.
Yeah, and I mean that to me is the fact that Martin Bashir is still there and Alec Baldwin still suspended is unbelievable to me. But before I lose you, I do want to ask you about, because your first chapter of your book I think is the most important chapter, because you talk about 2014, 2016, and I just want to point out that I got into radio the old-fashioned way, by getting into radio, not by running for president. I just wanted to point
Fantastic, Tyler.
And so, because you talk about that in your book, how the Republicans tend to get people that people run for president, not because they want to be president, but because they want to get a radio show or a television show or get a book deal.
Right. They run for president as Republicans. It's weird how Democrats aren't beset by these. By people's egos, by greed, by seeking higher speaking fees. I looked back at I think it was the 1988 election, when the Democratic field was famously referred to as the Seven Dwarfs because they were considered, not very impressive candidates. Every single one of them was a senator or a governor, and that is all I ask, except Jesse Jackson, king of the universe. That's all I ask of Republicans. I don't have a candidate for president in 2016 yet, but let's just keep the chaff out, the people who are applying for a television, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I've supported Pat Buchanan, Steve Forbes, Duncan Hunter for a while. I was wild about Herman Cain. I just love that 999. But I've learned my lesson. That is not going to be the eventual nominee. It hurts our eventual nominee. Just senators and governors. Throw them in a few debates, and we don't need 312 of them. And we'll get our best candidate and not hurt him in the process of the primaries.
And speaking of senators, of course, here in North Carolina, we got a big Senate race against Senator Kay Hagan, and she is absolutely freaking out. The poll numbers, she went from a 17-point lead to now losing to the candidate that you have, I guess, endorsed on your Twitter account, Dr. Greg Brannon here in North Carolina. So why did you decide to pick North Carolina and, kind of get involved in this race?
Well, it's a very, very important race. I mean, I'm getting a little worried that even with this Obamacare disaster, and it ought to help Republicans in a big way in the 2014 midterm elections. But I mean, we've seen this movie before. I can just see Republicans snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, and talk radio hosts other than yourself, Tyler, ginning up conservatives to stay home unless Christine O'Donnell is on the ballot. We have to concentrate on winning right now. I'm second to none in disliking John McCain. I was for Hillary over John McCain. And yet, if he were up for election in 2014, I'd vote for him. All we need now is to rack up people with R's after their name. Remember, not one Republican voted for Obamacare. Kay Hagan voted for Obamacare. She is out of step with the politics of North Carolina. That is a big fat target for Republicans. And I happened to read an article, I think it was in the New York Times, about, I think it's Tom Tillis, the Speaker of the House, versus Greg Brannon, this doctor, a Christian, lovely family. But the issue I care about is amnesty, and Tom Tillis uses all the weasel words you hear from the pro-amnesty people. Oh, the system is broken. And he introduced a bill to expand guest workers from 6 weeks to 9 months. Can we hold off on bringing in foreign workers when we have unemployment rate through the roof? No, this helps employers, not employees. And Greg Brannon is very good on immigration. He is very clear. People Republicans are pro-amnesty when they start giving you the gobbledygook words. They talk about immigration the way liberals talk about abortion. They'll never say abortion. Republicans will never say amnesty. No, the system is broken. Just come out and tell us you're for E-Verify and you're against amnesty. Then we know.
Well, Ann, I don't want to keep you all day, even though I could. I appreciate you coming on the show this morning, and I encourage everyone to buy your new book, Never Trust a Liberal, Over 3, especially Republican, and you can buy it at Amazon.com, and that website is working, unlike healthcare.com. So as much as the comparison was made by our president, you can buy it at Amazon.com. So, Ann, I appreciate you joining me this morning.
Great to talk to you, Tyler. Thank you.
All right, Ann Coulter, New York Times best-selling author, 9 times New York Times best-selling author. Her new book, Never Trust a Liberal, Over 3, especially a Republican. Go pick it up. I did. And it's fascinating. Like I said, that first chapter alone is worth the purchase of the book. All right, we got to go. 9:20 here. If you want to give me a call, 910-763-4000. We'll be right back.
Daddy, what do taxes pay for?
Oh, why, everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine, and let's not forget the folks who just don't feel like working.
You're listening to Tyler Cralle on 980 W.